Okay, we're here again, and things are, uh, you know, think life happens, and we make it work. And so sometimes you have your mitt ready to catch the ball here, but really it's coming over there, and that's how it is. So we have people joining. Thanks so much for coming on. Linda has joined, and she's sent a request. I'm going to people coming on. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Waiting for Linda
I
to,
hear
here
you.
she is. And without further ado, I hear you, I see you, we're here. And just very quickly, Linda's a widely recognized, Linda's one of the top US advertising attorneys, and she is an expert in, you're not going to believe all these different categories, in many different product and service categories, including telecommunication, wireless, retail, publishing, entertainment, digital marketing, gaming, food and beverage, and financial services. And she does the sweepstakes. She does all of these ways of interacting that you know about and have been involved with. And Linda makes sure that the people who are doing this are following the legal guidelines, and she brings tremendous expertise, integrity. And in addition to that, we get to spend time with her today and hear about her journey. So Linda, thanks for staying with us. This is Linda's first Instagram live, so let's give her a round of applause. We always go in, we take challenges, we stick with it until we make it work, and that's what's happened today
Thank
too.
you.
So Linda, welcome. And is there something that I haven't talked about your bio, your
No,
background
I
that you'd
think
like
I
us
think
to know?
professionally you captured it, and I know we've lost some time with the technical glitches. Thank you all for bearing with us. So I'm happy to get right into it.
So let's go. So Linda, you've had tremendous accomplishments. You've had recognition. You've spoken with huge audiences. People seek you out for high levels of advice. So could you just let us know, what is it that you needed to disrupt in yourself in order to achieve the professional and the personal success that you have up to
So
this point in time?
I think there are two things if I think back, because I started on a very sort of determined path of doing what I thought I should do without really thinking or stopping to think for a minute, like, am I really enjoying this? Do I really like this? So I would say part A is I followed the traditional path, and I rushed through college. I went to law school. I applied to work at a big firm. I went to the big firm. I hated every day more than the next. And then I had to have the courage to say to myself, I really don't like this. And I know this is the standard path, but I don't like this. So I need to try something else. And that's what led me to join an advertising agency many, many years ago, more than I will admit on this Instagram live. But that's how I gained my entry into advertising law. And I think the second thing was that as I became more successful, many people would not believe this today, but at one time in my life, I was relatively shy. But somehow, as I started to be successful, I found a lot of confidence and a lot of voice, and I just think the whole way I projected myself changed, and that really led people to put their trust in me, which is what you need to be a successful lawyer. People have to think that you're really confident in what you're doing, and I think being able to project that had a really important impact on my success.
Amazing. So I'm going to do a little highlighting. So the first highlight is that, sometimes we're given this map of success, the map of satisfaction, the map of if you do this in your life, then everything will be great. And oftentimes we know that that's really not the case. And it takes a lot of courage, as you said, to change the path and recognize that this isn't working for me. And if it works for 80 million other people, it still doesn't matter. It doesn't work for me. So you had the courage to do that. And the other piece is developing your confidence from the inside out. And that the confidence needs to be authentic, and that you become the expert through learning and working, and then you're able to really be that confident person and the person that people can rely on. That's really, that's
No, and
not a moment.
I think it's, I say it's important in law. I think it's important in everything. And in some ways the two go together, because if you find something that where you feel it's the right fit, then I think that naturally develops a certain set of confidence. But I think underlying it all, yeah, you have to get out of your comfort zone sometimes, to get to the next level.
So you were talking about starting out being shy, and that's not uncommon for people, being shy or feeling uncomfortable, really like getting out there, because when you're out there, not everybody's going to love you, not everybody's going to agree with you. And so what was that like? Because when we sit back, it's one space of comfort. When we get out there, how did you navigate that?
Again, I mean, I think that as it's really sort of a symbiotic relationship, and as you get more comfortable, you get more successful. And there were people along the way that really didn't like me. Either they thought I was too aggressive, which is a whole other set of issues, or for whatever reason. But then you get to a point where that doesn't impact your self-esteem anymore. Like, it's okay. You don't like me as a person. You don't like me as a lawyer, but there's lots of other people that do. So you have to get your energy from the people that do and learn to not internalize the people that don't.
That's incredible advice, especially for women who are often socialized to be liked. And there's nothing, being liked is great. There's nothing wrong with that, but that somehow that's the goal. And then if someone isn't liking you, and I'm not talking about you personally at the moment, but if somebody isn't liking you, it's like, oh my gosh, I must have done something wrong, or I'm not good enough. And so being able to say, that's okay. That's okay. And that's huge. And you got to that, you got there. And I know that one of the things that is really important for you has been to get a mentor.
I mean, you can try to do it all on your own, but some of it is a little luck. And I was very fortunate to have some great mentors in my life. The first one being my mom, who was way ahead of her time and really raised me to believe that I could do anything I wanted, and that I needed to be independent, and that career was really important. And she was really way ahead of her time in that. But then along the way, I had one of the best teachers of advertising law, who was the founder of one of the firms I ultimately went to, where I then became a named partner, and his name was Felix Kent, and he was considered the dean of advertising law. And I got to learn so much from him, not just in terms of the law, but in terms of client relationships and business development and really all the elements that go into being a successful lawyer. And then I had some other mentors. I will say that one of the ways I really grew my business was through a lot of networking and, being involved in a lot of trade associations and affinity groups. And because you can't do it alone, you have to build a network of people. And I did have another mentor who really taught me. It's interesting, if I think about it, if you asked him what he did, and he was incredibly successful, he would say, I build relationships. That's what I do. And people paid him for it. People paid him retainers, and it'd be like, and what are you going to do for me? And he would say, I'm going to build relationships for you. And it worked, and that was a huge influence on my life as well.
You're tremendously committed to building relationships, and that's what networking is. It's something that gets talked about a lot, the importance of networking. And networking means building relationships. Networking is all about
right. And I would also say, I think you have to approach networking by not always thinking, is there an immediate business opportunity? I mean, it's kind of like, if you go in, I remember being single, like, you can't go to every party thinking, am I going to meet my husband? You might actually meet someone else that's great and is going to enhance your life. So with networking, you can't, I certainly didn't go into every event thinking, am I going to bring a piece of business out of this? But I developed incredible relationships, and some of those people, even today, I mean, it could be 10, 15 years since I heard from them. But when they get into trouble, unfortunately, it's like the dentist, they remember and they pick up the phone. And in many ways, a lot of my personal relationships have been intertwined with my professional relationships. And I just think you have to be open to it all.
I love what you're saying about, when you go in and you're going to some sort of event, you're meeting people, whatever it may be, that the way that you're thinking about it, the mindset can't be, I'm leaving with business. I'm leaving with an interview. I'm leaving with something. What you're leaving with, and you say it so eloquently, what you're leaving with is possibly an open door.
And you don't know where it's going to lead. And that's the beauty of life, really. And the challenge every day is actually not knowing where it's going to lead.
Mm-hmm. So, there's your mom as your mentor, who sounds like an extraordinary woman, as you've been very clear, well ahead of her time. And certainly you've emulated her in being ahead of your time as well, which we'll get to is also. And that the other two people that you mentioned were men. And I wonder what that was like, certainly going into, we've seen Mad Men, there's all sorts of information around. What was it like, being a woman in that space, space, and having
so they
mentors,
were actually very different relationships. I will say that I lived Mad Men when I left my first job at a big law firm to go into an advertising agency. It was at the end of the Mad Men days. It was the early to mid 80s, but it was very much alive. I mean, I saw it, the three martini lunches, they really existed. And, I'd be at some of them with my, glass of water and a lemon, because I certainly could not do that at lunch and function the rest of the day. But it was a very male-dominated environment. It was at a time when women really were not in any positions of leadership in the advertising field. That has dramatically changed, which I'm, just on a personal level, I'm very glad to see. There are so many women now who are CEOs of advertising agencies or chief creative directors or chief marketing officers, and none of that existed when I came into this field. So even at that time, my, as good a mentor as my senior law partner was, there was still the fact that I was a woman definitely had, I don't think, as much as he mentored me, I don't think he ever really saw me as an equal. When I went out on maternity leave, he didn't think I was coming back. He had kind of written it off, and I had heard from people, he doesn't really think you're coming back. And when I did come back, he was almost surprised. And then when he retired, even though at that point I had been handling most of his clients, technically he left a lot of those clients for credit purposes in the law firm to one of the men in the group. So he was a great mentor to me, but I never felt that, I was on an equal playing field with other men in the group. My second mentor, I felt, that was a completely equal relationship. And in fact, I think I think the fact that I was a woman actually motivated him to try to elevate me and help me even more. So both were mentors to me, but at very different times. And so maybe it's a little bit of a barometer of some of the change that's occurred. Obviously, we still have a long way to go, but it was definitely a different feeling.
And I'm almost speechless, hearing this, because it is a hard road. It's a hard road. It's a hard road to prove a level of expertise when you're being handicapped to begin with, just by, when we talk about, many aspects of unconscious bias, right then and there's some of the aspects of unconscious bias.
I would say, unfortunately, even today, it's still there. Some of it isn't even unconscious, depending on who it is. It's there. We keep making strides, but we gotta keep going because it's definitely out there. I will say that I have experienced it my entire career. I think at many points in my career, I probably worked harder than I needed to because there was always sort of the need to prove myself. I will also say, for the people that are listening and, think about work-life balance, I never, maybe with one limited exception that my children will forever remind me of, missed an important event with my kids. However, I would never say, I'm going to this event. It wasn't acceptable then. It would be, I have a doctor's appointment, or I have a meeting outside the office. It just wasn't acceptable to say, there's a nursery school play and I have to be there. That's changed. And I will say, one of the things I'm very proud of is that I have, for most of my career, I have mostly had a predominance of female associates or female members of my team. And before hybrid work was a thing, I'm talking maybe 15 years ago, I let any of the women that were working for me make their own schedules as far as how they came, when they came in, because my feeling was, however it best works for you, that's really important.
Yeah. That there's a professional respect that this is your job and you're going to get it done. And whether you get it done between 8 or 9 in the morning or 1 to 2 in the morning, that's up to you. What would you, what's it to you? You know, as long as things are getting done and things are handing in on time. Yeah. And so what have what have you learned, or what other information could you share? Because you're at the space of motherhood, serious career, not secondary. And this is, I think this is another point, which is that at no point were you secondary. At no point did you think of your career really as not the level that you wanted it to be, that you created your vision. And that also that, when you're in a firm or not, that there's always an entrepreneurial component.
Yes,
to
I mean,
it.
I've been fortunate because I've, in every, other than when I was at the ad agency where I had no flexibility, interestingly enough, at every other point, I did have flexibility, and I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So I'm always looking for the next, new thing in advertising, which today is AI. And at some point, it will get to a point where I really don't understand it anymore. But so far, I've been able to keep up, so that's good. But my career has never been secondary. But by the same token, if it ever came to a choice between my family and my career, my DNA is I would pick my family, but I always try to be in situations where I didn't have to make that choice. And, if there's one thing I learned, I guess, is, law is a pretty grueling career. And so if you're able to navigate that, and not have to make that choice, I imagine it can be done in lots of different environments. And I would say, don't ever put yourself in a position where you have to make that choice. Put yourself in a position and pursue opportunities that allow you to navigate and be successful at both.
That's beautiful. And just before I go into the last question, Linda, you talk about the importance of, and of just one comment, which is that, Linda, when I haven't understood what the latest trend is, that I've asked Linda to explain it to me. And she's always so many steps ahead, so in the know. And so how have you utilized all of that? As I said in the video about you, that you're not on the cutting edge, you create the cutting edge. And so how do you delineate yourself?
I think I've always tried to anticipate what the next, when there's just a slight buzz about something, I'll start to just read up all about it, and watch it, so that if it starts to take off, I feel like I don't have to go through the learning curve. I can start to think about and anticipate what are the legal issues going to be. And I will say, because I think this is important too in terms of a path to success, that I had to learn how to do that early on, because my mentor, Felix Kent, that I've talked about, he was a giant in terms of being an advertising lawyer. He was considered the dean of the field. And so to be successful, I had to find emerging areas where, he wasn't looking at those. He was set in what he did. And I had to turn to the emerging areas and be a little bit more entrepreneurial, to differentiate myself, because otherwise, as a younger lawyer, why would anybody call me rather than him? He's clearly had much more experience than me, but by differentiating and pursuing different avenues, that's what really enabled me to develop business and really grow.
And talking about differentiation and challenge and taking on the next frontier, as I mentioned, this is Linda's first foray into Instagram Live. And this is another frontier that you have conquered, Linda.
Risa.
So I'm thrilled to share this with you. And I want to just be very clear on thanking you so much.
I'm very happy to be here, and very happy to share this all with you.
Yes. And remember, just like today happened. I know I'm like a little emotion. It's an emotional time, and that's all fine. So to take the time and to share your wisdom. And one of the things that we know is that it's so important to learn from people who have a tremendous amount to offer. You never know where it's going to come from. It can come from someone that you're sitting next to at a lunch. It can come from somebody that you bump into in a subway. You always have the opportunity to learn. You always have the opportunity to make connection. Don't waste your connections.
And the only other thing I would add to that is be kind to the people at the bottom on the way up, because when they get to the top, you're going to be on your way down. But if you help them on the way up, they're still going to be kind and nice to you. So just, another point on cherishing the connections.
Oh, always. So we're going to stay on for a few more minutes. Fast, last. What's your next disruption after Instagram Live? What could it possibly be?
I think it's going to be AI, because you can see it already. It's going to have a monumental effect on advertising and marketing. So I think that's my next professional disruption. And my personal disruption is to be a grandma, because there's nothing like it. So I think I'll continue to do both.
Well, there you have it, that, it's not this or that you really can have this and that. You can make it happen, work on it, find a path. And what Linda has taught us is that if the path doesn't exist,
Absolutely.
Make it. That's it. If the path isn't there, make the path. Start to make the path. And it takes time. It doesn't happen in a moment. Build your relationships. I'm summing up here. There's so much wisdom that you've given us. And remember that positive change can happen at any point. You never miss your opportunity. You can start your opportunity in the next moment. And so Linda and I are going to stay on to take our photos together for our cover shot. And thank you all so much for coming. And people who haven't been able to come on today, we're going to be posting this. Linda, you're going to be a contributor, and so people can have access to it. Watch it. Let people know who didn't have a chance to come on that this is one that they absolutely do need to see. And we'll see you next time. Okay,
Ready.
Linda, you're ready for your happy shot? Okay. One more. There we go.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.